So a lot of the people that I have in my that I have my relationships with in Chicago, just because of my background at Baker Tilly, are finance leaders, especially from Chicago Tech. So there's a lot of exciting things happening with some of the companies in Chicago, and one of them is ThreeKit, a company that strictly focuses on augmented reality and basically just how that influences the consumer behavior. And I'm really excited today because I have Nancy Rizkallah, who's the VP of Finance at ThreeKit, joining me for this conversation. So Nancy, welcome.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me, Benny.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you for multiple reasons. One, with what's happening at ThreeKit. Two, it's been great to actually finally see you in person after this 12-month lockdown. And I'm excited because of the topics that we're going to cover in this video because of the diversity in your background. So before we get into all of that, if you want to just introduce yourself and talk a little bit about your background and where you're at right now.
Sure. So Nancy Rizkallah, currently VP of Finance, as you said, at ThreeKit. I really started my career in public accounting right out of college. I worked for a company where our target customers were small and mid-sized, privately held, which really lent itself to where I am now. The nice thing about working there is we worked on audit and tax, so I got exposure to all of that, and I worked closely with the teams at the companies. After about 8 years or so, had a family, and work-life balance became a lot more of a priority. So I needed to get out of public accounting, but also it was kind of seeing that team spirit from the companies that I would, visit once, twice a year, work on and move to the next one, see them working together on the same goal, shared goal. So wanted to try that out myself, wanted to essentially be on the other side. So I joined my first tech startup after leaving public accounting, not really knowing that I was joining a startup. It wasn't kind of called out as a tech startup. What attracted me to the description was that it was a smaller company just getting off the ground. Kind of the uncertainty was exciting after being in public accounting for a while and being in a more kind of older, more conservative industry. So I was drawn to that. And, 3-4 companies later, I've continued with the startup community, and I'm at ThreeKit now. Probably one of the more exciting companies I've worked for from a product perspective.
So obviously, you and I talked before, and there's a lot going on in ThreeKit, and which is absolutely exciting. And but why don't you talk a little bit about what's happening there right now and give a little bit of a plug to ThreeKit?
Yeah, for sure. So our vision at ThreeKit is really to kind of set the standard of 2D, 3D, AR, which I know you talked to our founder and CTO a lot about, to really set the standard for that in e-commerce. We had a great last year, despite COVID, met our pre-COVID set goals. As with everyone else, we were kind of hesitant on hiring and doing a lot because we didn't know what was going to happen with the economy. But after having that great year and a great Q1, we are now growth, like that is what we were focused on to kind of continue that vision of where we want to be and get to it faster. So we are planning to double our team size if we can recruit fast enough by the end of this year. So that is really everyone's focus right now.
When you say double, please quantify that.
Yeah, so we were at 70 people at the end of last year, and goal is to get to 137 to be exact by the end of this year. So
by December 31st of 2021?
January 31st. Sorry, we have a fiscal year, so January 31st.
I mean, that's only a month, but it's still, wow.
Yeah. Okay. It's huge, and we're trying to do it, in a smart way too, because it's about growing and scaling. So we have all this headcount to add, but we want to do it. We want to make sure we're growing efficiently. So we're also spending the time to put in processes, procedures, amp up our documentation so people can onboard and get effective more quickly. Also, we're investing in technology ourselves to get through that. An example is I've recently, signed a contract with a financial planning tool. So all of our teams are kind of exploring how do we make sure we do this growth smart and efficient and make it work out.
Well, as a person that leads finance for this company, and especially when you're experiencing this much growth, like what are the main things that you in your role focus on besides for just the making sure everybody's you hit the head count? Like what are the other things that you're focused on besides for that one technology investment too?
Yeah, so working closely with employee success, HR traditionally called, is one thing, because when we hire the right people and they stay with us and it works out, it's best for everyone, right? And that's including from a cost perspective, because it costs money to replace people, right? It costs money if you don't hire the right person, and you have to replace them if people don't last with you for whatever reason. So we're also putting in effort and cost and money from a finance perspective to make sure we're hiring right, we're retaining the people, and really setting up an environment where everyone can grow and thrive at ThreeKit from their own personal experiences, as well as, of course, add the value that we expect out of everyone that joins the team.
Got it. FYI, I know most of the people that would watch this on LinkedIn, there's a lot of finance people, accounting and finance people. So if you have any openings in accounting and finance, you can say it right now and people could reach out.
Yeah, definitely we do. We're hiring at a senior level. So I will be in the short term posting a link on LinkedIn with all of our roles, that one included, for sure.
This is the first time I'm actually having somebody like Etsy be able to talk about an opening that they have. So
Yeah.
no, that's great. It's really cool. And I just, again, I did the video with Ben Houston. I mean, he talks more about the technology, which I think is awesome. So it's fascinating. Okay, so now the main thing I wanted to ask you was, you worked in public accounting, you worked for big corporate, and you worked in startups. So what are some of the major differences from your perspective in those three areas?
Yeah, so I think the largest difference I would call out is really that having that direct impact on the company and where it's going, which is really what drew me to that first job out of public accounting, which hasn't disappointed. So when you're working with a smaller team, a smaller company, the things you do, and I think this is regardless of any role you're in, you really see what the efforts you're putting in coming out at the end with the company's success, the direction the company takes, the strategy the company shoots for. All of that has a really direct correlation. In a larger company, I feel like there's more steps in between, right, to see that you are making an impact, but you don't see it quite as directly as you do with a smaller startup. That would be the largest, I'd say. On the other hand, another difference would be if you're working with a larger company, you can specialize, right? You can specialize in kind of your thing, and I could see how that is, gratifying as well.
So how did that affect you? The part you just mentioned about specializing, because obviously when you're in a startup, anything can happen, and you might, people use the analogy that you can be the CFO, but then something could spill on the floor and you're the one that's cleaning up the mess, literally, right? So from your perspective and your experience, talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, this is something that we're really good at ThreeKit, where we take ownership over our specific functions and what we do, but the lines of communication between the different teams are always open. So if you have a suggestion for marketing, or marketing has a suggestion for finance, there's always ample opportunity where we listen to each other. There's things like that. And then there's also the roll up your sleeves and do something, right? So I'm VP of finance, but if I get a customer who's, emailing, when am I, can you send me the invoice, or, I have a question on this invoice, I'll oftentimes be the one that responds. So, there's a lot of that as well.
I've talked to people that have made the transition from big corporate to startup, and I think the biggest complaint, if you want to call it that, is what you just said, is like, they're not specialized, they're doing all these other things. Sometimes it could come off as unorganized, right? But yeah, I've talked to people where they don't like that, and they like the specialization. They like the more organized, planned, strategic look versus, having to do whatever, like you just brought up the customers part. For people that are in big corporate right now, but want to be a part of a startup, build something, what advice do you have for them, especially women? Because I feel like in the startup world, it's still more of a male dominated environment. And then when you break that down to finance, it gets even more, the amount of males is a lot higher. So what advice do you have for people, especially women, that want to make that transition? What should they be prepared for? Yeah.
So I think, like you said, there's a lot of rolling up your sleeves and doing stuff. So I think you have to be kind of introspective and think about, are you okay with that? What are you looking for from a longer term career? Or are you not sure? Do you want to just give it a try? But the satisfying part is, okay, I'm rolling up my sleeves today, but I'm also at the same time putting those policies and procedures and that organization in place. So am I the type of person who kind of gets that satisfaction from being the one to set that? Or do I thrive in kind of a more defined role or a defined structure that I align to? So I think that's really a personal preference. For women in particular, I think women can be more risk averse, right? Naturally, women are often juggling families and other demands outside of work. The startup community is really doing a great job, really pushing kind of inclusion and diversity. I feel like they're, one of the industries that are at the forefront of that. And part of that is recognizing what women can bring to the table. We're doing at ThreeKit, we have a huge initiative. Like you said, the progress is slow. That's in finance, that's in tech roles. But there's really that intent to get more women in and more women with seats at the table. So I think we will get there, and we are getting there.
Okay. You're a mom.
Mm-hmm.
You're a wife. You're a finance leader. Like, how do you balance all of this?
Yeah, sometimes well, sometimes not very well. I have a great support system. I have a great husband who helps. I have family. I have my mom who helps a ton. Outsourcing is big, so we outsource some of the things, the after school care, some, housework. So that's for sure. But really, just to keep all of that flowing and going is just a lot of organizations and organization and lists. And we have family calendars, and if it's not on the calendar, it's pretty much not going to get done. So just trying to stay on top of that from that perspective.
Got it. Okay. I know that if, I'm sure people will see this, and I'm gonna tag you on this on LinkedIn. So, especially women that, I think everyone's struggling, but I think, being in tech, women, leading teams, being a mom, like all that, it's tough. So if people want to pick your brain, they could obviously reach out to you directly on LinkedIn. And I'm obviously looking forward to seeing what's going to happen with ThreeKit and everything that's going on. It's really exciting. So
yeah, if you want to see more of ThreeKit, I don't know if I mentioned this, we have released this marketplace where we you can go on, you can see all of our customers. We love our customers. So you can see all their products, and, it's a way for us to show off kind of what we could do to help them as well. So it'd be a great.
Awesome. Cool. Perfect. Thank you. And I know how passionate you are about what's happening at ThreeKit and the growth that you guys are experiencing. So I'm looking forward to it, and absolutely looking forward to getting out for happy hours and drinks and outside soon too.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, Nancy.
Okay.